You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive video content from the ETSI NFV meeting number 9 from Prague in the Czech Republic. And joining me now is Frank Kostarski, who is the principal engineer with Red Hat, looking at NFV, SDN, technologies and standards. Frank, welcome to TelecomTV. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I know you haven't been at Red Hat very long, but you have been involved in NFV for quite some time. You were around at the start of the ETSI NFV work. So I'm just interested from your perspective, how do you see the NFV development so far? Where are we at?
Right. So after finishing phase 1, which was, in my point of view, hugely successful because we generated an enormous interest in the industry and enormous momentum around it, we managed to get a common understanding between service providers, what's their shared vision about how they would transform the networks and the infrastructure, as well as the network equipment vendors. After creating this common understanding, we basically created what's become known as the ETSI NFV architectural framework. And now we're in phase 2, where we're trying to fill this framework to define solid requirements, to define solid interfaces that then the industry can build on.
What is Red Hat's role within NFV? Where is its interest?
Right. So an important part of the service provider's vision about how NFV will evolve and how it will transform networks and operations is to leverage for the first time in our industry open source and an open innovation model. And Red Hat is the world leading open source company, and we're providing solutions for high available and high performant cloud, virtualization, middleware, and of course we're known for Linux. We're providing solutions around that, certification, support, training, consulting. And so of course we have an inherent interest in shaping this movement.
Well, for service providers and operators, they don't necessarily have the experience of the open source, open software market and community, maybe in small elements, but not together as a whole. How is ETSI through the NFV ISG making it easier for everyone to collaborate? Because there are so many bodies and organisations, some doing frameworks, some doing standards. It seems from the outside it looks very, very complicated.
It is indeed complicated because, remember, you have the ETSI NFV specifying requirements and interfaces. Then we have the open platform for NFV, which is a project that's trying to integrate multiple open source projects, trying to create a reference implementation of the ETSI NFV specifications. But then you have all the what's called upstream open source projects that OPNFV builds upon, be it OpenStack as an infrastructure management solution, be it then the compute part, so where there are many projects involved, called libvirt, KVM, there's Linux below, there's the storage part, another project, Ceph, there's the networking part, where Open Daylight is involved. So you have a huge plethora of open source projects that we need to get together and integrate. And of course, this is a major interest of Red Hat because we've been involved for more than 20 years in integrating and working with the various parts of Linux. And of course, we have the experience also to integrate those open source components. And so we're also heavily involved in open platform for NFV, of course.
How does this fit in with the work you're doing here at the ETSI NFV ISG with the testing working group?
Okay. Within the testing working group, we've just actually yesterday created a new work item on open source. And the goal of that work item is actually to bridge the two worlds of the telco and standards folks that you have here in ETSI NFV and the open source communities. Because the feedback that we got often is that we're producing high quality requirements, but people don't understand it, right? So we need to somehow translate from our terminology from our concepts into something that's understandable and digestible by the open source communities. And then also we need to ensure that we need to understand that open source communities don't wait for us to just drop our requirements on them and saying, hey, please implement. We need to actively engage in these open source communities. And that's a very big problem for many vendors and also service providers because they've never worked with communities. They've never contributed there. They don't really understand how to get code or changes upstream into their projects. And this is where we actually started getting involved and offering training on that, supporting our customers and partners. But also we founded this open source work item to open a communication channel to the various projects and trying to speak with that on their terms, if you want.
So are we, because we talked about vendor interoperability has been very, very important, are we seeing the same level of openness and interoperability amongst the service providers? Are they come together as a whole and sharing their concerns, requirements, and ultimately best practices?
Well, if you want, they came together and formed the ETSI ISG NFV as a shared vision. And so I think that's already a huge proof that there is collaboration and sharing between operators. Now, when we go into deployment, we're all just making baby steps and everyone's trying to figure out how that works. So we've reached the critical phase where NFV is no longer a research innovation exercise. It's really about getting it into operations. And there's still a lot of things that people try to figure out, and sharing with other operators as well as with open source communities for understanding what is actually required from them. That's, I think, something we need to work on and evolve.
Frank Starsky, fascinating. Thanks much indeed.
Thank you very much.